Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary. We're facing a precarious moment in our republic where truth is under assault by partisan peddlers of alternative facts who seek to obfuscate the truth, attack those who dare to stand up and speak it, and gaslight the public, all in the name of politics, where blind allegiance to a single person is valued over fidelity to the Constitution. So I'd like to go over a few points today and correct the record so the American people have the truth before them. Now, President Trump claims to have inherited a, quote, disaster of an economy from President Obama, and he takes credits for what he calls, and I quote, an economic turnaround of historic proportions. Mr. Secretary, how long has the U.S. economy been posting positive GDP growth?
It's the longest running economic scenario we've been in.
Absolutely true. GDP was positive for the past 10 years, growing for the final 7 years of President Obama's presidency. So it's been growing for the last 10 years, including the final 7 years of the Obama presidency. And we can both agree that President Trump has been in office for about 3 years. Is that correct?
That we can definitely agree on.
Okay. So the economy was already growing for 7 years before President Trump took office. Let's talk about jobs. President Trump claimed he will be, quote, the greatest jobs president that God ever created, close quotes, and has repeatedly criticized President Obama's jobs record. Let's compare the last 3 years of the Obama presidency to the first 3 years of the Trump presidency. Can you guess who created more jobs?
I don't have the numbers in front of us, but we have created substantially more jobs than the Obama administration projected at the beginning of this administration by a multiple of 3.
Well, let's talk about what actually happened. The economy gained 1.5 million more jobs during the final 3 years of President Obama's presidency than the first 3 years of the Trump's presidency. So President Obama added 8.1 million jobs during his final 3 years in office. That is more than the amount of jobs added during the first 3 years of the Trump presidency, which is roughly about 6.6 million. So the fact of the matter is that what we had is a growing economy. GDP was growing, strengthened dramatically over the last several years before this administration took over. More jobs were created in the final 3 years of the previous administration than when this administration took over. And then let's talk about what it really means to families. During the last 2 years of the Obama administration, median household income increased by $4,800. During the first 2 years of the Trump administration, household income increased by less than a third of that. In fact, median household income only increased a mere $550 in 2018, far short of the $4,000 to $9,000 gains promised by this administration. So let me recap. Let's get to the truth. The Trump economy created less jobs and delivered under a third of the earnings to families than the final years of the Obama presidency, all the while nearly doubling the deficit to $1 trillion. So I think there's a truth. The truth is a real disconnect between what the administration is saying and how people are living. Bedrock middle-class goals of owning a home, sending your kid to college, saving enough for retirement are distant realities under this administration's economy. So I think that's important to set the record straight. And then finally, let me ask you, does the department commit to that its actions, policies, and investigations, including sanctions, will remain free from political pressure by the president? Because I look at the recent nominee, Ms. Liu, who was supposed to be before the Banking Committee, where I also serve, and her nomination's been pulled. I look at issues on the question of how we're enforcing sanctions, many of which I helped write. Can you tell this committee that the department will conduct its actions, policy, and investigations, including sanctions, free from political pressure by the president?
Well, I'm happy to answer that, but let me just get to, and be happy to send you a follow-up.
Can you answer my question first, that question first?
I just want to say, I have the numbers on disposable income are $4,452 from December 17 to 19. In regards to your question, I will specifically say no, okay, that I oversee the sanctions department. Sanctions are driven by foreign policy. Foreign policy is directed by the president. So no, specifically, I would say that sanctions, as are other foreign policy, are by direction by the president and executed through me.
So political considerations will take place. I'm not talking about policy considerations. I'm talking that political considerations will take place in your enforcement of sanctions.
I didn't know you were differentiating political from policy.
Well, I think there's a big difference.
Senator Cardin.
Again,